Shh. Hear that? Big waves are calling. Dive into refreshment with Kona Big Wave. Tropical flavor and the taste of aloha in every drop. So crack one open and let the great taste roll in. Kona Big Wave, liquid aloha. Copyright 2025 Kona Brewing Co., St. Louis, Missouri. Mahalo for enjoying responsibly.
Hey, it's Paris. You know I love sparkly things, right? Like stars. Duh. And thanks to Hilton and AutoCamp, I just slept under them. Picture me, serving looks by the fire outside my luxurious Airstream, making s'mores with the kids, while a national park is our backdrop. The great outdoors meets Hilton hospitality. That's hot. Explore all the new ways to stay at Hilton.com. Hilton for the stay.
Abercrombie denim is everything right now. Denim should feel like this. Confident, easy, like your butt has never looked better. If you didn't know, Abercrombie's Curve Love denim went viral in 2019 for eliminating waist gap, and it's still a game changer. Between that and their classic fits with a straighter line from waist to hip, the perfect denim does exist. Shop Abercrombie denim in the app, online, and in store.
Welcome back into Unscripted. This is where we talk about anything and everything that we want to and have you guys join in on the conversations. Don't be shy in the comments on Spotify. Let us know what you're thinking. I'm Paige.
And I'm Natalie. And today we're talking about Netflix's new documentary, Titan, the Oceangate Disaster. And before we dive into the controversy and the bigger implications of this documentary, I think we should probably set the stage on the who, what, where, just all the facts, basically. Because it wasn't just a bizarre news story. It was an international news story that really became sort of a crisis that brought a lot of people together over social media and the news cycle. So it really did play out like a horrifying car wreck that nobody could take their eyes off of.
That's a really... How do I want to word this? Because I don't want to sound flippant. Let me think for a
I know,
sec.
that's why I had to rephrase what I said, because I was like, what did I say?
You did good. You did good. I also think it would be remiss if we didn't acknowledge that we've now just passed by a few days when we're recording this, the 2-year anniversary when all of this started happening, which was June 18th, 2023. When this documentary came out and Natalie and I said, hey, let's chat about this on Unscripted, we weren't even thinking about that at all because I didn't remember the date. In all honesty, I probably would have told you it was like earlier this year. And I don't mean that in like a flippant way. Like that's just how fast time goes by in this life, at least for me. And so for it to already be 2 years and it's just such a timely conversation because, it's a harrowing story. Is that the right word? Harrowing?
I think so. I think there's a lot this story encompasses, and I think it is remarkable that it's been 2 years. It's hard to wrap my mind around the fact that it happened in 2023. When we did see that this documentary came out, I was shocked that they had even had time to put it together. And then I was watching it and I realized, oh, wow, 2 years have gone by. And I'm sure for those involved, those 2 years were dragging by. But for the rest of the people like us that witnessed it, there are constant stories in the news that push one thing out and take its place. So that's probably why it feels like it wasn't that long ago.
Yeah. I mean, and social media, especially TikTok, when you're chronically online like us, I mean, we were talking about it and sharing TikToks back and forth going like, can you believe this? Oh my gosh, another day not found. This really played out in the worst case scenario from things way before that submersible went below the water. Everything that scared people that could happen pretty much happened in this scenario.
Right. I did want to cover the who, what, where, like I said. So obviously June 2023, The Oceangate Submersible Titan, which is the name of the submersible, it went missing during a commercial dive to the Titanic wreck site, which is in the North Atlantic. It's about 12,000 feet below water, or about 3,300 meters. And there were 5 people aboard. So Stockton Rush, who is the CEO of Oceangate and also the pilot, Paul Henry, I'm apologizing in advance, Nargiolet, he was a Titanic expert, Hamish Harding, a British billionaire, Shahzada Dawood, a businessman, and his son, who was 19 years old, Sulman Dawood. These 5 people were all aboard, and this vehicle, this submersible, lost contact 90 minutes into the dive. There was a massive search effort that unfolded. Like Paige mentioned, there was even a 96-hour oxygen window that basically created a media frenzy because people couldn't help but report on every time an hour passed. Oh, they're down to 95 minutes. Oh, they're down to 80 minutes or hours. Oh, they're down to 20 hours. And it just was a story that kept people on the edge of their seats. And it ended when it was eventually confirmed that the sub imploded at 3,300 meters and killed all 5 on board instantly.
And this documentary really shed a light on, I think, some important pieces of information when it comes to part of the controversy and criticism of this submersible. So I think it's important to note that with the submersible belonging to Stockton, a very rich man with a pretty large ego, in my opinion, it was privately owned, right? So that's a really important piece of information. And it wasn't really something that was being done in terms of privately owned,
at least the way he was doing it.
Submersibles putting tourists, and the way that he was doing it, putting tourists in a submersible, bolting them in, taking them down to the Titanic. I mean, James Cameron, the director of Titanic, he went down, I think, about 5 times, and he thought this was pretty crazy. And the submersible, Oceangate, the company, had previously faced warnings and concerns about the safety of this submersible. And it's important to note that it was made out of carbon fiber and other experimental materials. When you're going that far down into the ocean, which I think is a couple miles, maybe a little bit more down, you're getting down to thousands and thousands of PSI, or whatever you want to call like the pressure. And carbon fiber is not made for that. And so he was told many times, this isn't safe, but it did kind of, I don't want to say that it kept passing because it's not the right word, but it kept, and anytime it was kind of tested, it would stay kind of, something kept motivating Stockton to keep the carbon fiber materials as the design. Let me just put it that way. Nothing was happening to the point that scared him away from these materials, but they bend and they break and they split underneath this pressure. And you can hear popping, even in the documentary, of old videos in the submersible. It's just frightening, creaking and popping. So the idea was that, if anything's going to happen and we're going to explode underneath this pressure, we're going to hear the warnings of the submersible and get to the top before it even happens. We'll be able to rise, release the pressure. We're going to be okay. And they kept thinking that this was a safe enough way. And he was told this isn't a safe enough way. And all of those auditory tests kept showing it's bending, it's breaking, it's cracking.
In my opinion, I don't think that he didn't believe it when it happened because of the test that they did with the smaller pieces of the carbon fiber that they were doing. Those would eventually crack and explode. I think he just dismissed them because of his huge ego.
Correct. I would fully agree with that. And I think he also felt a false sense of security with the auditory warnings that they were going to use. So they knew so much that this carbon fiber couldn't perhaps withstand all of that pressure forever that they developed that kind of false warning system, because I don't know when they were diving in this particular dive if they were just missed, not heard, or ignored, but something happened where they did not rise to the top and get to safety before it exploded.
And I think the people who were passengers aboard the Titan definitely had more of the false sense of security rather than Stockton's ego that was blinding him. Because when you have an actual Titanic explorer and an expert on board, that kind of eases you into thinking, all right, this guy knows what he's doing. And then when you hear that the Titan has done 80 dives in its history, you think, okay, this has been tested. So I can't imagine those people, like the man who brought his 19-year-old son with him, really thought that it was a large possibility that they wouldn't come out of it alive, even though I heard they all had to sign waivers declaring that they understood they could die.
Yes, they did.
But how many times do we sign waivers when we're doing things in our day-to-day lives? Like if you go parasailing, you're signing a waiver. If you go bungee jumping, you're signing a waiver. There are so many things people sign while on vacation, while doing a little bit unconventional activities that they sign and don't realize that, oh, it really truly is a possibility that I don't go home from this.
Absolutely. And in the meantime, you have things like whistleblowers being silenced, really, quite frankly, fired, like David Lockridge, Tony Neeson. Tony was an engineer and David Lockridge was a Marine, and they both spoke up early, highlighting risks and, other concerns that were like, can't do this. And then you also have ignored warning signs, which we've kind of highlighted already. But in 2022 specifically, there was a dive that kind of deformed the hull, and that freaked a lot of people out. And instead of grounding that craft, it was put on its fatal dive in June of 2023.
What did you think of those two guys, Lockridge and David Neeson, and their interviews throughout the documentary and even the footage that we have of them? Because at least for me, I was surprised I felt like Tony Lockridge felt very responsible, not responsible, but he felt like there was an emotional response from him in a lot of the interviews. He clearly was upset by what had happened. And he had been trying to make it known for years and years and years before he was eventually taken to court by Stockton that this was unsafe and people were going to die sooner or later. Versus Tony Neeson, I almost felt like his interviews were a little odd. He kept laughing throughout them. And I know that can be a response when someone's uncomfortable, but it almost felt insincere when he was laughing and talking about what had gone on behind the scenes. And I never felt like it sounded like he took accountability. He more so, there's a point where he says he learned from what happened to the pilot, Lockton, when he got fired and let go, that he would no longer stand up to Stockton, that he would just basically do what he had to do to get paid and keep his job.
I want to start by saying that I agree with you. I also want to correct myself. I said Marine because in my notes, I'm seeing the word Marine. His actual kind of title was Director of Marine Ops. So don't think like Army Marine. So brains are weird when you're recording. I don't know how to explain it. But anyway, so David Lockridge was a former director of Marine Operations for Oceangate. And as we've been saying, he did express safety concerns about the ill-fated Titan submersible. So this is kind of coming from an article so I can get my thoughts together here. And he said that, I believe that if OSHA had attempted to investigate the seriousness of the concerns I raised on multiple occasions, this tragedy may have been prevented. So he is feeling a strong sense of duty about this for sure when it's Lockridge.
And you see that sense of duty in a particular dive that is shown in the documentary where he was going to be taking a group of people who paid to board the submersible. And Stockton at the last minute tells him, actually, you're not going. I'm going to pilot the submersible. And then I guess they get into a fight or some sort of disagreement. And he eventually, Stockton goes and pilots it, but David also is on board as well. And there's a moment where Stockton gets the submersible in a perilous situation where, I think they're exploring a different, like, downed ship. I can't think of the name of it right now, but he gets the submersible so close that they could be stuck down there with that ship forever, because if you take one wrong move, that's the end of it. So he has to figure out a way to get them out. And after that dive, they come up to the top, and David says that Stockton refuses to speak with him the rest of the trip. And after that moment, he's cut out of all communications within the company.
Stockton didn't want anyone around him that was going to stop this. He idolized people like Elon Musk and whoever else
Jeff
in those
Bezos.
types of circles. That are, inventing things. I shouldn't say inventing, because a lot of them just buy proprietary stuff, but being part of launching something so new and so game-changing.
He even refers to Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos as big swinging dicks, and he hoped to be a big swinging dick one of these days. He saw them as aspirational. And I mean, look, Jeff Bezos just had his Blue Origin spaceship take Katy Perry up and play, and a bunch of other celebrities up into space for like 10 minutes. And I think he was looking to be that type of person for the depths of the ocean.
100%. I think that part of him, yes, really did want to actually bring Titanic lovers like himself, like the Frenchman that was on board, to the Titanic. Obviously, that was something of interest, or he could have done it in a different way. So that, I think, was always there too. But knowing that Titanic would pull people to want to participate in this experiment. And that's exactly what it was. It was an experiment. And what's interesting when we are still in this conversation surrounding Tony and David Lockridge as well, is that it's kind of noted that once Tony had the concerns, in order to keep his job, like you were kind of mentioning earlier, he had to also manage the other engineers that were kind of below him, who also had massive concerns about the safety, specifically of the hull. He had to manage them in a way where Stockton would not find out. Because I think at this point, though, there's a certain point where they still had time to fix, to fine tune, to see what can we do? And they kept putting this hole in the tanks. And I don't want to say improvising, but like a better word, putting it under up to almost 4,000 PSI. And, this false sense of safety, even though it was cracking under this pressure to a certain extent, which I think is honestly what is a bit, and I don't want to be flippant, but a bit ironic about this all, is that idea of, like you mentioned, it's gone on all of these dives before. That's actually what was making it more and more and more and more unsafe, because the hole is cracking, creaking, cracking, creaking, splitting under all this pressure.
It was dive.
Compromised. Yes. And so it actually became less safe with every dive. And that is such an intense part of this whole story, because most of the time, that's not how our brain thinks. And that's not how a lot of things in this world work, right? It's proven safety testing, when the safety testing and the actual diving and all of that was like compromising it. And that is, I don't have another word, but ironic and tragic. Yeah, it's tragically ironic here. And this story is very hard to talk about. There are surviving family members out there who are having to, live with the wake of this. And can you imagine being a family member during that dive when they were down there? Because, we've talked about the carbon fiber. We've talked about, the egos and the big swinging dicks of it all. And, now let's do it. Let's take it to this moment where, it's June 18th and they're definitely excited, I'm sure, to get this submersible on another dive. These people are so excited. They've paid $250,000 to do this?
A significant amount of money to participate in this dive.
Significant. And I'm sure that Rush was very excited to go on another dive. And where they're diving, just for reference, Natalie started to mention it as the North Atlantic. So if you go up to Canada, right around Newfoundland, and you go a bit east, that's where the Titanic is in that general area. Listen, I am not a marine expert at all. So please, but that's the general area where it is, just for context. Because I knew that the Titanic was in the Atlantic, but even I actually didn't know where exactly in the ocean it was. And we've only known where it was for 40 years, considering that it's way over 100 years ago that this happened in 1912. So 1912, 1912. I think it's April 14th, 1912. I'm almost positive that's Titanic. And on our calendars, it would say Titanic Day. So if you want to double check me, anybody. So that brought some interesting information to me in terms of just how close to North America the Titanic actually is comparatively to where it left from in Europe. It's no secret that weight loss medications are everywhere right now. I mean, seriously, everyone's talking about them. So many people are on them. But let's be real. Have you seen the price tag? They're so expensive. It's hard to believe that so many people are actually accessing them. And that's where Hers comes in. Hers is transforming women's healthcare by providing access to affordable weight loss treatment plans. They connect you with a medical provider who will work with you to determine the best treatment option for you. If prescribed, you'll get medication as part of a doctor-developed weight loss program, complete with ongoing care, check-ins, dosage, and medication adjustments, along with 24/7 online support at no additional cost. No hidden fees and no membership fees. Weight Loss by Hers is realistic, not restrictive, and affordable. Hers provides access to both oral medication kits and GLP-1 injectable options, with oral medication kits starting at just $69 per month with a 10-month plan when paid out up front. Plus, your personalized treatment ships for free directly to your door. So, if you've been struggling with your weight loss journey or you want to kick it up a notch, it's time to find the best option that will work for you through Hers. Start your free online visit today at forhers.com/diaries. That's forhers.com/diaries for your personalized weight loss treatment options. forhers.com/diaries. Weight Loss by Hers is not available everywhere. Compound products are not approved or reviewed for safety, effectiveness, or quality by the FDA. Prescription required. See website for full details, important safety information, and restrictions. Actual price depends on product and plan purchased.
Meet new people and express your true self. Play IMVU and you can customize your avatar and world to your tastes. In this virtual universe, you can choose from over 54 million items and join in on over 300,000 chat rooms. Create your unique style and show it off to millions of IMVU users around the world. Come find your community on IMVU, whether that be friends or more. Dress, play, connect. Download IMVU from the App Store or Google Play today.
We're obsessed with Quince here at the Murder Diaries. We love all of the clothing items that we own from them. And guess what we just heard they had? Bedding. So you know that I added a pair of their sheets to my collection of bedding. And honestly, it's pretty flippin' amazing, and I don't know why I waited so long. Quince's linen bedding is everything that people say it is. It's light, breathable, and soft from day one. It's woven from 100% European flax. It's the perfect mix of relaxed and refined, and it just gets softer with every wash. The same goes for their ultra plush duvets, quilts, pillows, and shams too. They feature other premium fabrics like organic cotton, breezy bamboo, and skin nourishing silk. Quince has everything you need to level up your bed. And the best part, like Quince's clothing that we love so much, their bedding is half the cost of similar brands. By partnering with top artisans, Quince cuts out the cost of the middleman and passes those savings on to us. Quince only works with factories that use safe, ethical, and responsible manufacturing practices. We love to see it. They use premium fabrics and finishes that you just cannot deny the quality of. If you're wondering what I've been using, it's the European linen sheet set in burgundy, and I love the way it looks. The color is so beautiful and the fabric is top notch. Level up your bedding with Quince and you'll feel the difference right away. Go to quince.com/MD for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. That's QUINCE.com/MD to get free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/MD.
This episode is brought to you by State Farm. Checking off the boxes on your to-do list is a great feeling. And when it comes to checking off coverage, a State Farm agent can help you choose an option that's right for you. Whether you prefer talking in person, on the phone, or using the award-winning app, it's nice knowing you have help finding coverage that best fits your needs. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
This episode is brought to you by Nespresso Virtual Coffee Machines. Ready to enjoy the bold flavors of barista-quality Nespresso iced coffee at home? Simply fill a glass with ice and press the brew button on your virtual pop machine to enjoy rich double espressos roasted to stand up even when chilled. Refreshingly bold iced coffee. Refreshingly easy to make at home. Visit Nespresso.com to shop now.
An hour and a half in to this dive, they've lost him. And that was not normal. That was not okay immediately. They are bolted in. There is no way to get out of this submersible. If anything is going wrong, the submersible needs to come up. And it is a literal PlayStation controller. We cannot forget this. It's a literal, like, PlayStation type controller.
And they don't even have seats. They're sitting on the floor without shoes on. It's a cramped, little, teeny tiny submersible, like you said, controlled by a remote, like a PlayStation remote. It's wild.
Do we know how long the dives were supposed to take? That part I don't remember hearing, but they may have missed it because, yeah, you wouldn't want to sit like this for very long. It's very uncomfortable. There was like 5 or 6 of them total in this submersible, really cramped. Again, Natalie said no seats. There are no seats. You are just sitting in this tube. And
you crawl in, and most of the time you're not wearing shoes.
Yeah.
And you sit crisscross applesauce across from whoever you're sitting across from, and you get bolted in and sink down to the bottom of the ocean.
They really only had like a pretty small window to see the Titanic through too. If I was paying that much money to go down to the Titanic, I would kind of be a little peeved. Like, you're taking me down to the Titanic to stare at it with 5 other people through like a circular window. I think that's all it was.
Well, that's the thing with this, like, adventure capitalism. You know, these experiences that cost more than people's houses if they're paying $250,000, that costs more than a lot of people's homes. I don't think it's about the, like, how it's done. It's just that it's done. Do you know what I mean? That you get to do it.
That's such a great point. I didn't think about that. It's the novelty of it all. And you know what? Guess what? Anybody wants to say, oh, you only saw the Titanic, like myself, through a circular window. What were you thinking? The idea for them, or the feeling maybe, but I saw the Titanic through that window and you didn't.
Right.
You've only seen it on a documentary, on a TV. You know what?
That's enough for me.
That's good enough for me.
Right?
Jinx. Yeah. I mean, really good enough for me. And that's before submersible. So I don't say that in a cheeky way, oh, now that the submersible, exploded, imploded, I don't know what the right word would be. That's not playing into this. Like, it honestly is enough. And I think that there should be a respect for the wreckage. But unfortunately for historians and, probably many other, cultural science type professionals, we are losing the Titanic. it is eroding. It will not be around forever. We don't know what it'll look like in another 100 years, if it'll still be there or what. So there really is such a limited time to explore, get whatever answers there could be and things like that. But there still is that idea of kind of letting it rest as well.
Right. It's a mass grave. Hundreds of people died in 1912 when the Titanic sank. Maybe we should just let them rest in peace rather than making it a destination for the rich or famous. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I think that this is so mirroring to the idea of the Titanic already, in that way of, oh, it's not going to sink. We're not even going to have enough lifeboats on board. We don't need them. It's unsinkable. And then what happens? You hit an iceberg and you sink. And so many people died, especially due to their class orientation, unfortunately. And I think there was a famous first class member, which was the more elite class. Oh, they had big suites. Her dog was not allowed on board one of the lifeboats that she was going to have space on. And she stayed with her dog and passed with her dog. Like, there's so many stories like that. But again, I think the Submersible mirrors the overall picture of the Titanic can't sink. We're not even going to put enough lifeboats on it, that kind of thing.
Oh, absolutely. That recklessness of being so sure of your success. And I think there's a moment in the documentary where Stockton Rush is being interviewed. And he says something along the lines of, oh, the submersible is indestructible. And the interviewer tells him, they said that about the Titanic. The same thing. And so, you know, you're so right to say that they do mirror each other and that they both face a similar tragic ending.
Lots of ego involved in both, in my opinion.
You know what I have to wonder, though?
What?
I'm wondering if, like, where the line is from being brave to explore things that haven't been done before, or, you know, to go down 3,300, 4,000 meters into the depths of the ocean to explore the wreckage. Is that brave or is it reckless? You know what I mean? There's a fine line, right?
And maybe that's the number I'm referring to when I was talking about PSI and the pressure is, right, maybe that was the number, right, of how many meters they were below. When I'm looking at the counter, maybe I didn't understand well enough. So let me correct myself when I'm talking about like PSI. I think they were showing it in meters and mimicking the PSI that you would feel underneath that many meters of water. I'm pretty sure maybe that's what it was then.
I think so. Because I know that it's like 12,000 plus feet below the ocean where it landed, which is about 4,000 meters.
And that's exactly what he wanted to get to. Remember that scene where they made it to like 3,000?
Oh, 3939. And he said
3939. And yeah, what did he say? He said something. I'm going to use the word cocky. He said something pretty cocky here.
Well, he said basically, I stopped at 3939 because this is the 39th dive. It just felt basically like significant. And he said, let's just round up to 4,000 because, you know, we're basically there and no one's going to check me, basically. And he even says like something like, oh, delete that from the footage.
Yes, because he says anybody who doesn't call that 4,000 basically can go F themselves. But I don't know the exact words. I really wanted to take a full note of what he said there. But it just shows you the state of mind and the confidence that he had in this, which, I mean, good for you on your project, having, you know, confidence. But you could see that blind, that untouchability of, you know, 3939.
It's 4,000.
It's 4,000. And it's like, I get kind of wanting to match up numbers and 39th dive and going to 3939. I get that. But was there something going on that made him feel a little scared to get to that exact 4,000? Or, you know,
probably.
Like we'll never know.
We'll never know because he was on that dive alone. and he was in the submersible for 17 plus hours alone. And Tony Nissen did say that he had put multiple microphones in the submersible at that point, and Stockton only wanted one microphone to catch the cracking sounds. And apparently that was some sort of, point of contention between them, because Stockton didn't want to know how loud the cracks would be, or he didn't want to know how often they would be. And with 18 versus one microphone, he definitely had a broader understanding of how much pressure the submersible was under.
And that's all they had were these, what they call them, auditory warnings, or they had a name for them, as if it was some like scientifically measured way of carbon fiber underneath that much pressure. Let it be known, like, this has not been known before. Carbon fiber is not made to be under pressure. Now, it would have made the submersible as light as possible, which is probably why they want to use carbon fiber. But I also think carbon fiber clearly became just as important as the idea that this thing goes underwater and goes on these dives.
Well,
because it meant something.
Part of the reason it meant something is because it was significantly cheaper. So they were able to lower the cost of building a submersible, which has been done before. Like, other companies have built submersibles out of steel and titanium, and they're known to be successful because they can withstand the pressure. But Stockton wanted to be different and to eventually make a fleet of these submersibles. And a way to do that and accomplish that was to lower the cost, and carbon fiber would allow him to do that.
And it also became proprietary in that way. Like, his submersibles became proprietary. So eventually, if other companies that dive, whether it's to the Titanic or whatever, if they started, buying Stockton Rush's special submersibles because they are, more economically sound and, nice and light and then yeah, he's got an interesting thing going, right? He's made his mark the way he wants to make his mark with something proprietary. And so I think that's another reason on top of costs why
absolutely
carbon fiber, because he just did not want to hear that the carbon fiber was dangerous. He didn't, each test that it only just popped and cracked, this is what I'm kind of taking away, to him was, okay, good, it just popped and cracked. He was not thinking long term.
But the thing is, one of the experts that was interviewed for the documentary said, you don't want to even hear one crack because it's telling you
that's right
that the submersible is compromised. Something I do want to I want to take a little bit of a tangent as we're talking about Stockton wanting to leave his mark in history, I suppose, is his lineage. That's something that I found really interesting. So it's discussed very briefly, but Stockton Rush is actually a descendant of two individuals who signed the Declaration of Independence. And so that's actually where Stockton gets his name from. He's descended from Richard Stockton and Benjamin Rush, who were both signers of the Declaration of Independence. And his lineage also includes a poet that's very well known named Annis Stockton, who was a friend of George Washington. But he's not the only one who has, big names or interesting characters in his familial history. His wife, Wendy Rush, is a descendant of Isidore and Ida Strauss, who perished on the Titanic, which I thought was so ironic and interesting. Had you heard that?
It feels like, I don't want to say invisible strings because that normally has like a positive connotation, and I'm not trying to bring any kind of negative connotations, but it just feels like there's so many invisible strings leading them back to American history and the Titanic specifically. It's
I have to
so
wonder
wild
too, though, was he interested in the Titanic before he met his wife and knew about her great grandparents, or is that what spurred the interest? I don't know, but apparently both are super wealthy and they were able to fund Oceangate on their own. And the documentary does go into, which I was interested in as well, because he is, he comes from such a wealthy family with big names. He did attend an Ivy League, Princeton, where he studied engineering and basically got terrible grades, like C's, D's, even an F. And I don't know, it just reminded me of C's get degrees, but like clearly C's can't figure out the proper engineering for certain things because, I mean, he was relying on skills that he didn't master.
Right. And you know what? C's are not going to get you into graduate school if you have more work to do. But a lot of times, luckily with engineering, that's a 5-year degree. They're usually like 150 units. So you oftentimes end up with really great jobs without grad school. So you know what? Good for engineers. And I don't know why this kind of background is making me think about this, but when we're talking about these submersibles, something else that kind of proves maybe a little bit that he wanted to be a bit untouchable with all of this is that the submersibles, well, they launched off a boat that was tagged to Canada. They did not have a tag to any state, any country. And when I say state, I'm referring to the US because it's off the Atlantic. So, the interviewer asks one of the Coast Guard investigators who was very keen to get on this case, admittedly. They ask, how unusual is that? And they say, in 26 years, unprecedented. I was going to say extremely unusual. Unprecedented is the right word. And they said, why do you think that is? And the Coast Guard investigator says, by design, meaning that that's something that Stockton Rush clearly made sure of, it seems. And I don't know why.
It was a loophole.
It must have been a loophole to not have to have certain things regulated and avoid those safety regulations. And it's like, can people please just understand that when you are avoiding certain regulations that exist for a reason, it is not because the government thinks it's fun to tell you what to do. They're trying to keep you from exploding in the ocean in your submersible.
Well, and it wasn't the only loophole that he took advantage of either.
Oh, I'm sure.
The vessel wasn't certified by any regulatory body. So at the beginning, we learned that it's important for these vessels, whether it's his submersible, someone else's submersible, to be tested and verified by a third party. And he refused to have any of that done. And then he also avoided regulations by calling passengers mission specialists to get around the laws about commercial passenger vessels, because it's said that if you have passengers, people that are paying to be on board, and they are called passengers, it is much more financially ruinsome, and there's much more red tape if they die versus a mission specialist or a crew member. And that's how he was able to skirt around, possibly getting in trouble if something tragic like the imploding happened. And I know you're probably thinking, well, you've been referring to them as passengers. It's just easier. But there is another thing to consider is the people who were mission specialists, aka passengers, did pay to go on board, but they also did it through a loophole, and they did it by funding the mission versus paying for a ticket.
Another loophole that was dodged in a similar vein here was that it was never classified by maritime regulators because they labeled the Titan as experimental. And honestly, I kind of agree that it was experimental regardless.
I think we can all agree with that.
Absolutely. And the documentary actually kind of criticizes the OSHA and Coast Guard as under-resourced and unable to enforce this kind of safety proactivity that could have been used maybe. But again, there was so many loopholes. Who knows? Who knows what the real where the real sort of, I don't want to use the word blame, but like where the real responsibility for that is. But clearly we know that this was mostly preventable in terms of the warnings and those things that they know that they would have been up against with this submersible. But let's kind of continue on in terms of the Titan's story. So June 18th is the dive. They lost signal about an hour and a half into the dive. We kind of discussed that. And on June 22nd is when debris was finally found near the Titanic site. Authorities then confirmed that the Titan had suffered a, quote, catastrophic implosion that killed all 5 passengers, what we believe would have been very instant. They had no idea it was coming. And honestly, I think Stockton Rush would have known it was coming before them. And I have questions, and I don't want to come off snarky or accusatory in telling this story, because I know that this meant something to him, and I think we could all get in our heads with that. But I have to question, with these people on board, were there those auditory warning signs to an extra extent that he felt like, I can't bring this vessel up? They paid so much money. We're going to be okay. It's always ended up okay. I'm just going to keep doing it, where he didn't even make them aware of anything? Or was there something where he was getting those auditory sounds and they lost signal and he was trying to get up and then they imploded? Most of the theories state that they wouldn't have even seen the implosion really coming. But again, Stockton Rush was the only one truly on board that knew about the auditory warnings and would have recognized them.
And I think there's a moment where he does say that he's told passengers or mission specialists, whatever we want to call them, to ignore those cracking sounds. And so I almost feel like he became desensitized to the urgency and the tragedy that could follow those cracking sounds. I think he had heard them so much at that point that he just didn't care. He didn't heed the warnings.
Yeah, they were just like the boy who cried wolf kind of thing, right? Like, oh, you've been cracking and you're still okay. And it's that false sense of security, even for himself. I will state, though, while we're talking about the popping and the cracking and the resulting implosion, the U.S. Navy had detected. Now, this was not told to the public that I remember. And we were watching, Natalie, you and I, a lot of TikToks about this. We were texting at midnight about this because this was very scary for so many of us to think about, being bolted in a submersible and be stuck in the ocean or lost somewhere. I mean, the idea of implosion hadn't even been explained to us necessarily. We knew they could run out of oxygen.
We knew it was a possibility, but I think that the public was fed a dosage of hope with that oxygen countdown. We really truly believed, at least I think the broader public from the social media videos I watched on it, was that they would be found, they would be rescued, and it would be seen as a very scary moment in their lives, but they would have their lives.
My cat Freddie loves to be brushed and cuddled. But stirring up his cat allergens meant sneezing and itchy eyes. Then I found Purina One Live Clear. It's cat food that reduced the major allergen and my suffering in as little as 21 days. Now, we feel closer than ever. If you have issues with cat allergens, you really need to try Purina One Live Clear.
Try new Purina One Live Clear today. Purina One, a difference from day one.
How do you top your love for your cat? With a cascade of decadent savory gravy over a mouth-watering mousse pâté. Fancy Feast gems. 2 gourmet pâtés in one convenient pack. Simply peel and plate to reveal a pyramid shape that makes eating delightful and pamper her with an experience as extraordinary as she is. Turn the everyday into the extraordinary with Fancy Feast gems.
This episode is sponsored by Friskies, who would like to tell your cats hi. Now, if that didn't get your cat's attention, there is one thing that always does the trick. Just pour some Friskies crunchy food in the bowl and you'll hear those paws come running. Works every time. With so many Friskies choices, you can always bring your cats running from their secret napping spots. There's always more to explore. See for yourself at friskies.com or visit your local store.
Are you ready to dairy-free your mind? This summer, melt away your dairy-free expectations with So Delicious dairy-free frozen desserts. Enjoy mind-blowing flavors like salted caramel cluster, chocolate cookies and cream, cookie dough, and more. For over 35 years, So Delicious has been cranking up the flavor with show-stopping products that are 100% dairy-free, certified vegan by Vegan Action, and are so unbelievably creamy, your taste buds will do a double take. Dairy-free your mind. Visit SoDeliciousDairyFree.com.
I was deep in it, gaming on Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 7. Unfolding the screen made it twice as big and so immersive, I kinda lost myself. Might have trolled a little too close to the sun. Someone in the chat told me to touch grass, so I took my Z Fold 7 outside and kept playing. Still won, got a tan, and a nice little reset. Powerful processor, realistic graphics, you stay locked in, streak stays alive. Can your phone do that?
The new Galaxy Z Fold 7. Get yours at Samsung.com.
Right. We all kind of wondered, are we going to find them? And are we going to find them alive? Like, we never really questioned that we wouldn't find them. We just wondered, are we going to find them alive because they're running out of oxygen? What a horrible way to die. Again, sure, implosion or something, anything going under that amount of pressure, that's always an option. But you describe it perfectly, Natalie, where it was like there was this idea of hope, and it almost made the implosion of the vessel seem the least likely because, as you mentioned, all these other ones are made out of steel and this and that, whereas a lot of the general public did not understand that this was made out of carbon fiber. Or even myself, you could have told me it was made out of carbon fiber. I would have never thought about how much pressure can carbon fiber go under, because I would have never thought a bunch of engineers would have made it out of carbon fiber then.
And I think also what informed our thought process at the time was we had no idea, as the general public, the amount of warnings he was given by so many people that this was a possibility, not if, but when. And you had mentioned he was like the boy who cried wolf, but I almost feel like he's more like... The cracks were. Okay. Well, I was going to say, I feel like he's more like Icarus, the Greek mythology guy who flew too close to the sun and was told, hey, those wax wings you have, they're going to melt. And they melted and he drowned in the ocean. And that's literally what happened to Stockton.
He was definitely an Icarus. And bless you for a Greek mythology reference that's also a Hamilton reference because of that song. That, do you know what Eliza said when she heard you cheated? Basically, she told me that I married an Icarus and that you've flown too close to the sun. That line is oof. I love that musical. But I digress because we're talking about the Titan Submersible. Another thing that we weren't told that I was kind of segueing into a few moments ago there is that on top of not really being fed as the public the idea that the implosion is what was most likely, because they hadn't even found debris yet, is that the Navy had detected, this had to have been kept quiet.
Of course.
The Navy had detected an acoustic anomaly, as they call it, that was consistent with some kind of implosion around the time that communication was lost of the submersible.
There's footage of Wendy, Stockton's wife,
harrowing,
who is on the boat and trying to get in contact with them. And she hears a boom and says to the people around her, did you hear that? Or what was that? And I think in that moment, she knew what it was, but looked to them for validation that it was. Yeah, assurance is probably the better word. Assurance that, no, your husband's fine. But I don't think she actually believed them. I think from that moment on, there was a little voice in her head that said, like, that was the likely outcome.
1000%. And that footage, can you imagine?
No.
Hearing your partner, hearing the very moment that they blew up with their, what I'll call his life's work. And I know I said blow up, but I'm speaking so fast. I hope that doesn't come off as like curt, but
I have a hard time understanding how involved she was, because I know she was on the board, and I know that she was very aware of all the warnings that this wouldn't work. So of course it must have been tragic to hear her husband the moment that he lost his life, but also she was aware that that was a possibility, right?
Truth. She must have been almost listening for that secretly every dive, making sure she didn't hear what she didn't want to hear. And then when she heard it, and it is kind of muffled, like it's not boom. It's more like,
well, I mean, it's almost 4,000 meters under the ocean.
Yeah. And the sound is going to travel differently. But to be heard, it must have been like, had that been on land, that would have been very, 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 very loud.
And I can't imagine her having that understanding of what could happen would make it easier. I just have to wonder, is she also culpable? Because could she have talked him out of diving and bringing innocent lives with him? Do you know what I mean?
Well, how much would he have let her know about all those warnings? Or if they're hearing the warnings and he's talking himself out of them and firing the people that are doing so. I mean, how much assurance was he giving her that this is okay and I'm going to keep going,
True.
And maybe a mix of all of it.
But that's something I have to wonder. And I did notice that she didn't participate in the documentary.
Yeah. I don't blame her for that one.
Me neither. I wouldn't have.
Yeah. It's definitely on par with, other tragedies that have happened, like the Challenger in the 80s. It's on par. I mean, it's obviously different in its own right and has its own story and its own key pieces to it. But this is a story that I think is one that is kind of going down in history more than just, here's a documentary about this that happened. Like you mentioned the submersible, people know exactly what you're talking about because we were on edge for 4 days.
And I don't think most people knew what submersibles were until this happened. A lot of people were like, I've never heard that word until today.
We certainly didn't call them that, right?
No.
We probably wouldn't have had a word for describing how James Cameron went to the Titanic 5 times. And we definitely weren't aware that you could pay $200,000 or so to be with Oceangate and partake in a dive. I still go back to wondering if that's even the right way to go in the future when it comes to the Titanic, and I think that we need to, in a way of honoring their memory, let this tale tell itself as a cautionary one of that same story of Icarus. I mean, this literally is that with different functions. I would hope that today would be what any of them on board would want in a way of their memory, like don't fly too close to the sun because.
And as we wrap up our discussion on the documentary, the submersible as a whole, like I can't help but think of like the legacy, the lessons, the lingering questions that we all have as the public. Like I do feel that the documentary did point fingers, but it also like asked questions about, how are we innovating? How are we regulating those innovations? What risks are we taking? And what will be changed in the future for any type of expedition that's taken? You know what I mean?
Yeah. What considerations, what regulations, because let's be real, capitalism being capitalism, we may end up with tourists at the Titanic still. Stockton Rush certainly isn't the only one that wants to do that, I'm sure.
He certainly isn't. I mean, clearly there were people that were wanting to go even before him. But even like, how do we balance innovation and accountability? Because who is being held accountable for this? I mean, Stockton Rush is gone. And, Oceangate, the company, was pretty much Stockton. So there is really no one person to hold accountable. And if we are going to be seeing more of this, not just necessarily submersibles, but this type of extreme tourism and this type of innovation, how are we going to make sure that there is someone to be held responsible when something tragic like this happens?
You bring up such a great point with extreme tourism and what a label for it, but that's exactly what it is. We've got, famous people going up to space for 11 minutes. We've got, rich people on submersibles that implode, 2.5 miles deep down into the ocean or however. It's happening. And people that are rich are able to make it happen by creating these companies, hiring these engineers, and getting this done. Look at Bezos. He's the reason that, Katy Perry and Gayle King and whoever else, his wife or girlfriend or whoever, was up in space for 11 minutes, supposedly. Some people don't think that actually happened. Kristen Cavallari being one of them. It was hilarious when she was talking about it. Most of the time, I'm not pro conspiracy theory, but the way she was talking about it was a little bit funny, and because everybody's safe, whatever. But yeah, I mean, it's happening, and people with money are getting access to these things. So it does have to make you wonder, where's it going to go? And if it is going to happen, do we let it and just get regulations going, or like, where do we go from here? And I mean, I don't know if that's a question for the general public or for the powers that be.
I think my mind goes to, just because we can doesn't mean we should.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You really got to think about more than just environmental impact and things like that. You have to really appreciate what hasn't been touched and shouldn't be touched, right? Just because it hasn't been touched doesn't mean...
There's a reason sometimes.
There's a reason, and there's a certain respect that comes with leaving things untouched, right? And so I think that, while hard, because humans are naturally curious beings, getting a sense of achievement for being the first person to do XYZ has been something for millennia, probably, right? But now we're kind of almost running out of firsts. And so now it's first blah, blah to space, or first blah, blah in the ocean, or whatever. And it's like, we really got to, achievement in life is important. We got to really see what is the use of what you're achieving, though, in my opinion. And I like the way you put it. Just because you can doesn't mean that you have to. And that's a sentiment to leave on, I think, for this episode.
I think so too.
Thank you so much for listening. We'll be back on Thursday for our true crime case coverage, and next Monday with another episode of Unscripted.
Until then.
Bye. It's no secret that weight loss medications are everywhere right now. I mean, seriously, everyone's talking about them. So many people are on them. But let's be real. Have you seen the price tag? They're so expensive. It's hard to believe that so many people are actually accessing them. And that's where Hers comes in. Hers is transforming women's healthcare by providing access to affordable weight loss treatment plans. They connect you with a medical provider who will work with you to determine the best treatment option for you. If prescribed, you'll get medication as part of a doctor-developed weight loss program, complete with ongoing care, check-ins, dosage, and medication adjustments, along with 24/7 online support at no additional cost. No hidden fees and no membership fees. Weight Loss by Hers is realistic, not restrictive, and affordable. Hers provides access to both oral medication kits and GLP-1 injectable options, with oral medication kits starting at just $69 per month with a 10-month plan when paid out upfront. Plus, your personalized treatment ships for free directly to your door. So, if you've been struggling with your weight loss journey or you want to kick it up a notch, it's time to find the best option that will work for you through Hers. Start your free online visit today at forhers.com/diaries. That's forhers.com/diaries for your personalized weight loss treatment options. forhers.com/diaries. Diaries. Weight loss by hers is not available everywhere. Compound products are not approved or reviewed for safety, effectiveness, or quality by the FDA. Prescription required. See website for full details, important safety information, and restrictions. Actual price depends on product and plan purchased.
The search for truth never ends. Introducing June's Journey, a hidden object mobile game with a captivating story. Connect with friends, explore the Roaring 20s, and enjoy thrilling activities and challenges while supporting environmental causes. After 7 years, the adventure continues with our immersive travels feature. Explore distant cultures and engage in exciting experiences. There's always something new to discover. Are you ready? Download June's Journey now on Android or iOS.
We're obsessed with Quince here at the Murder Diaries. We love all of the clothing items that we own from them. And guess what we just heard they had? Bedding. So you know that I added a pair of their sheets to my collection of bedding. And honestly, it's pretty flippin' amazing, and I don't know why I waited so long. Quince's linen bedding is everything that people say it is. It's light, breathable, and soft from day one. It's woven from 100% European flax. It's the perfect mix of relaxed and refined, and it just gets softer with every wash. The same goes for their ultra plush duvets, quilts, pillows, and shams too. They feature other premium fabrics like organic cotton, breezy bamboo, and skin-nourishing silk. Quince has everything you need to level up your bed. And the best part, like Quince's clothing that we love so much, their bedding is half the cost of similar brands. By partnering with top artisans, Quince cuts out the cost of the middleman and passes those savings on to us. Quince only works with factories that use safe, ethical, and responsible manufacturing practices. We love to see it. They use premium fabrics and finishes that you just cannot deny the quality of. If you're wondering what I've been using, it's the European linen sheet set in burgundy, and I love the way it looks. The color is so beautiful and the fabric is top notch. Level up your bedding with Quince and you'll feel the difference right away. Go to quince.com/MD for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. That's QUINCE.com/MD to get free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/MD.